All right, we are live. I'm just making sure everything's right. All right, hopefully everybody's. Listen. We all know what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, there is an ongoing terrorist attack in Moscow right now. It's looking pretty horrible. I don't. No sound. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Somebody said no sound. Unmute. Am I still muted? It says it's working for my thing. Okay, it's working. All right. So we have an ongoing terrorist attack in Moscow. Armed men wearing camouflage uniforms of some sort, described as having beards, entered trying to remember the name of it. It's a big music hall in Moscow. I'm going to be going back and forth from my phone for constant updates, guys. So just if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to trying to figure out what's going on. We have a lot to talk about today. This is going to be a long live stream, so buckle in, everybody. We got stuff in Ukraine to talk about, but I got to talk about this. Please, everybody, keep your prayer. Keep the people who have died and the people who are injured and the people who are currently in the music hall being evacuated. It's sounding like it might be getting close to being over. Apparently, they say that they have arrested one of the assailants. We don't know this at the current time. Confirmed right now, 40 dead, 100 injured. It's probably much higher than that. The concert hall was full at the time this began. These guys went in. There's been reports of between 5 and 20 men armed with AK-47s and Molotov cocktails entered the premises. They just began shooting people. It's just a horrible, horrible, horrible terrorist attack. In terms of what we know currently, the Americans came out and said they issued a warning for their citizens in Russia that there could be a terrorist attack on a concert hall. They specifically mentioned concert hall, which is pretty interesting. That was on the 7th of March. Again, this doesn't necessarily mean that the United States knew that this was going to happen. They may have just had some sort of inclination that there was rumors of a terrorist attack on a public place. That does happen frequently. It is very suspicious. The timing is very suspicious. I'm not going to make any claims right now until information comes out. I don't think anybody should make any claims right now until information comes out. Just keep your eyes open, pay very close attention, and I will be updating as we go through this live stream today. Again, I'm far away. I don't have all of the information, but I'm going through and I'm trying to provide as much as I can. Very sad, though. This is a horrible, 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 horrible event. Probably the largest terrorist attack in the last 20 years, I believe, in Russia. So, I'll stay informed. I'm trying to read information. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just a nightmare. A lot going on. I'm going to take us over to the map. I'm going to try to do some map updates, guys. If you can just try to stick with me. I know that there's a lot going on and there's a lot we need to talk about. We'll get to it all. Remember, if you have questions, throw them up in the thing. Super thanks. Make sure you guys like this live stream too. That helps me get seen, helps me with my visibility. I appreciate that. Without further ado, let's get into the map. All right. I'm sorry if I'm a little down, guys. It's hard right now to talk about everything going on. All right. Where's this line at? Get rid of this line. All right, so we do have some advancements on the map. All right, right here outside of Tanenke, we have a Russian advance into this field right here. So the Russians are expanding out of Tanenke. They've also captured this field and met up with the forces that are in Orlivka. The front line is now leveling right around some Kiev. Have already crossed into this part of Berdichi, as well as have basically made it up to the reservoir here. Some Kivka's days are likely numbered. The Russians are going to begin pushing very hard for Umansk, try to dislodge the Ukrainians from this riverbed position that they have retreated to, close up this ended portion of Orlivka. Hold on. My map is not refreshing in the way that it should. Why? Okay. So the Russians have captured this portion of, or have not captured yet this portion of Orlivka. So if you hear Ukrainian sources saying that Orlivka hasn't been captured, they're talking about these couple of houses out here, nothing major. But once the Russians cross over this reservoir, again, this is a strong defensive line for the Ukrainians, but the Russians are already right up against it. Once they cross this, the Ukrainians will be forced to retreat to their next defensive line back here around Umansk and Novopokrovsk. All right. So that's it for Avdiivka. If you guys want to see more information, I posted a video yesterday about what is going to happen behind Avdiivka. You can find that on my page. Episode 85 of Calibrated with Scott was all about what's going on behind Avdiivka. The more important advance, and I need to actually open up my topographical map of Bakhmut, as I so commonly love to do. Right here in Bakhmut, we have an advance north of Ivanivsky. Remember, I talked about this being a high ground fortification that overlooks Ivanivsky. The reason why the Russians have not been able to fully capture the town is because the Ukrainians have a very advantageous position in a trench fortification that is placed on this hill. The Russians have now captured that trench fortification, which means that Ivanivsky will likely fall very soon because there's just not a really solid way to defend it or keep it logistically supplied now that the Russians can look down on the lines of logistics coming into the town. Potentially, they could be supplied through these fields, but there's not much of Ivanivsky to defend anymore, so I expect the Russians to capture this town in the coming days. But this is very significant for a number of reasons. The first reason is we can see how close the Russians are now to what I considered the crow's nest. Again, if you guys subscribe to me on Twitter, some of my sub posts, you can see I talk about battles in specific cities. So far I've done Krasnohorivka and Chasiv Yar. I will do another one later next week. I will post another one. But basically what we're looking at right now is a distance of under a mile from the current Russian positions to Ukrainian positions in Chasiv Yar. This is vitally important that the Russians captured this. I'm going to take us over to the topographical map now so you guys can see. All right. Here's Ivanivsky. You can see, here's Ivanivsky. You can see this is the high ground now. The Russians are now on this high ground and are this is a very big deal for the Russians in this area, right? They've made it onto this high ground. They've captured this high ground fortification, and now they are basically on a level playing field to push into what I call the crow's nest. That's I call it the crow's nest because it's an outcrop separated from the rest of Chasiv Yar by this canal, and it is basically all apartment buildings. So, 4-story elevation gives the Ukrainians a great line of sight, but it has been bombed excessively by the Russians, so it's not as strong as it normally would be. The Russians are now on this high ground, able to push into Chasiv Yar, as well as look down on the supply roads leading into Ivanivsky. Remember, once Ivanivsky falls, The Russians will then push out from Ivaniski onto this high ground, capturing Kleshchivka. Once Kleshchivka is captured, I believe that the Russians will try to cross the canal here, follow the high ground, capturing these industrial waste hills to the south of Chasiv Yar, and then pushing into Chasiv Yar from the north and from the east. So that's what we're looking at right now around Bakhmut. And I expect the map to start moving in that area now a little bit faster, that the Russians have broken that fortification. All right, back over to the map. Oops. I don't think I have anything else necessarily on the map. No, I do not. However, I do have something that I want to talk about on the map, so I'm going to zoom out now and give you guys a good view of Ukraine in totality. All right, and I'm going to bring this up. So last night, we had a, oh, we good? All right. Last night we had a massive missile strike. Missile strikes on Ukraine. The first day, if you guys follow the information closely, the Russians were claimed to have, the Ukrainians claimed to have intercepted 100% of the Russian missiles fired, something like 29 cruise missiles, 1 Kinzhal, and 1 Iskander. I didn't believe that. I'm going to show you guys proof. Again, I had mentioned that this video is likely going to be demonetized. It's going to be demonetized because I'm going to show you guys some videos of the strikes. I believe it's important information to get out, so that's what's going to happen in this video. So I'm probably going to show a lot of stuff that I would not normally show on my live stream in this live stream today. Again, we'll go back over to the map just so we can talk about it. The most recent strike was much more successful in terms of the imagery we got and the confirmed hits we got. Just to go over a generalization of the missile strike, we had missiles hit in Chernigov, Sumy, Kharkov, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporozhye, Kryvyi Rog, Nikolaev, Odessa, and Klemensky. Probably also Vinnytsia, but I can't prove that at the current time. And also there were reports of potentially missiles striking in Kremenchuk or Cherkasy. Again, I do not have the sourcing for that information. I do not know if there were actually strikes in those cities. So I did not add them to my map, but there could be potentially more markings on this map. I as well did not include the drone strikes that occurred. Again, because I do not know where they occurred. I know that there were drone strikes in Odessa, Garin 2 strikes. There were probably more in other regions. But as for what I'm mapping, this is just what I'm going to show. These are what I have confirmed. These strikes were different. And as you can tell by the title of my video, I believe that the SMO is over. I believe this for a number of reasons. We're going to talk about all of those reasons in this podcast or live stream, except let me think. I'm going to show. I lost my train of thought. I'm going to restart. This missile strike was different. Oh yeah, the SMO being over. This missile strike was different. They targeted energy infrastructure, which is very interesting because it's no longer the winter, so they're not going for some sort of winter campaign like they did in 2022. It's also interesting because this strike appeared to specifically target power generation in Ukraine. It's a very big deal because in 2022, the Russians targeted a lot of large substations that are responsible for the transfer of the power. But this time, the Russians actually targeted the power generation. During the entire 2022 infrastructure campaign, the Russians destroyed the TPP number 5 in Kiev, thermal power plant number 5 in Kiev. One of the power plants was struck in Kharkov, and one of the power plants was struck in Kryvyi Rog. Today, we saw a power generation struck in Zaporozhye, Kharkov, Odessa, and Klemensky back over here. So we had a number of very, very significant strikes on Ukrainian power infrastructure. The most significant being the one in Zaporozhye, which struck this dam right here, the Dnipro hydroelectric power plant. It did not bust the dam, as there is a bunch of water. The Russians did not target the actual dam structure itself, but rather the, I believe, yeah, this section of the building, which is where all of the power generation actually comes from. Could they have potentially compromised the structure's integrity by striking here, and I believe probably over here? Yes, but as for right now, it looks like the dam is holding, so there is not a flood concern. But this was some brutal strikes, and we're gonna see those in a little bit. Overall, the strikes were, I mean, significant. We had 15 to 20 ballistic missiles land in Kharkov, ballistic missiles and glide bombs land in Sumy. We had ballistic missiles land in Chernigov, and we had a Kinzhal land in Dnipropetrovsk, and a Kinzhal, which are the hypersonic missiles that Russia possesses. One landed in Klemensky. So a number of very, very significant strikes. Odessa was again targeted today. I believe that the Russians are now operating at a different tempo when it comes to missile strikes. I do believe that this is the beginning of a concerted operation by the Russians to pave the way, basically, for an offensive coming in April or June or May. I believe that the Russians are now ready to go. Their reserves are in place, and the Ukrainian army over the next month is going to become very, very weak, and the Russians are going to capitalize on that. So that was the missile strike. Now I'm going to actually go over the specifics of the missile strike, because we got a very, very good graphic that I'm going to show you guys. It's might be a little difficult to understand. I actually made a video, and I'm going to post the video maybe today, potentially tomorrow. I'm going to be busy this weekend, so I might post it up tomorrow, but it was about this strike. It covers it in great depth. But just for you guys, I'm going to go over and do the exact same thing again and talk about the similar image. So here you can see the map of Ukraine. Obviously, it might be hard for you guys to see. I hope you guys can see it. Again, if you would like to view this, it is on both my Telegram and my Twitter. But for right now, down here at the legend, I'm going to actually go to this so you guys can see. This is the movement of air targets for March 22nd, 2024. The map is based on the official information from the Air Force and on its OSNIT sources. The direction of movement, which are indicated on the map, are officially published by the above mentioned sources, blah, 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 blah. But here's the most important part, is the legend. So you guys can see red is X-101. That's one of the more important ones. Obviously, you have Shahed drones. X-22 is green. Kinzhal is blue. Caliber, which was not in this launch, is teal. X-59, X-31, Orlan 10, and then ballistics orange, which is also important. So remember those. Coming back here, you can still see it down here. It's just in a different language. So, you know, the number ones are easy to read, but ballistic is orange. That's the most important one. So these strike days start the same way every time. There is a pattern. I've been following this pattern for 2 years. I very much know it. The Russians like to begin these strike days with Garand 2 launches. The Ukrainians claim that the Garand 2s are launched from this territory of the Russian Federation. They fly over Crimea and up through the south. These drones are what I would consider the bait, if you will. They spot Ukrainian air defense positions. They expose radar holes. You know, they most of these Garand 2s now have cameras placed on them, so they are gathering in. Do know when they're being shot at and stuff like that. Is my thing like kind of lagging? It seems like it's lagging. I don't know. I hope it's not lagging. But the drones come up, they expose air defense, and then at the same time as these drones begin to fly over, Tu-95s take off from their air bases in Russia, fly over the Caspian Sea, fire missiles. Here you can see those red missiles, the X-101s, or KH-101 if you want the proper like Russian name for it. Missiles, which are just advanced cruise missiles, come in through the territory, fly all around. Look, you can see they're making loops. They're doing all sorts of stuff. I believe that these are both evading air defenses as well as drawing out air defenses. Once those air defense systems are drawn out, Russia then fires ballistic missiles. You can see ballistic missiles struck Kryvyi, Zaporozhye, Dnipro, Kharkov, and we know that I know that ballistic missiles landed in Nikolaev and Odessa as well, all from the south. I do believe ballistic missiles landed in Sumy as well. So ballistic missiles were fired. I would say between 40 and 60 ballistic missiles were fired this night. The Ukrainians claim like 12 Iskanders and then 22 S-300 missiles, which the Russians are not firing S-300 missiles at ground targets, guys. I hate to break it to you. They're not accurate. The Russians have plenty of ballistic missiles that are very accurate and do a much better job, so that's what they're using. Again, you got to sift out the propaganda from reality. And then once those air defense areas are exposed and ballistic missiles have hit, then MiG-31s take off from Russian territory, fly over and launch their Kinzhals. At the peak last night, I believe that there were 6 MiG-31s airborne, so potentially 6 Kinzhals were fired. Could be more, could be less. I'm not exactly sure, but we have omissions of hits in Western Ukraine over here and in Dnipropetrovsk. So very interesting. It's cool to see kind of a diagram, a mapping of how you. Oh, and I forgot to mention Tu-22M backfire bombers come up into the Sea of Azov and launch KH-22 missiles, which are huge missiles at targets. So that's another layer of this missile attack. Very complex and very significant. And now I'm going to show you guys the actual results of said strikes. So I'm going to take you over and we are going to look at some of the hits. Here we have Kharkov. This is not an actual hit itself. This is just a video of a energy infrastructure facility, I believe a power plant that was on fire. Remember, Kharkov was hit by 12 ballistic missiles at least, and they do not have hardly any air defense in the region. So Kharkov is kind of a sitting duck. I talked about the dam that got hit. This is how the night started. We got to see some of the flashes on just set up security cams. If you guys go on YouTube, you can find these. They're just live streams basically of Ukraine. They say different oblasts. They have different cameras from different places. But here basically is just a minute of Zaporozhye just getting hammered by likely cruise missiles and also ballistic missiles. I'm just going to kind of let this play out. Pretty significant flashes. Again, you can't really tell what's going on. But big smoke plumes. That something significant is happening, right? Back over. Let's go downsize. So in Zaporozhye, we saw that the dam was hit. Here is the aftermath of that. Reservoir. They have a beautiful view of the dam, and on this day, the view was a little hazy. Coming over here, you can see the inside of the energy facility, the power plant. It is destroyed. The roof is caved in. Multiple missiles have hit. All of the equipment inside is severely damaged. The firefighters are trying to put out fires. Here you can see the outside of the dam. This is a road, so this is what you would consider collateral damage right here, right? People just wrong place, wrong time, driving by, and the missile explodes and does damage. I had no word on casualties. Actually, there is word on casualties. The entire casualties from the entire strike day, hundreds of missiles, multiple targets hit, was 3. So that's pretty impressive, I would think, and it kind of goes to show that, again, the Russians are not targeting civilians with these strikes. more people died in random Belgorod shelling the other day than died in the recent missile strikes by Russia. So I'm going to show you this one. Here we have a video. Again, these were sort of the first videos we were seeing. There's some better videos that are coming, trust me. But we started to get more evidence of some pretty significant damage. And then we got the bell of the ball. Hold on, let me find it. Hold on, right here.
Смотри.
Here, I'm gonna restart it.
Еще пиздует нахуй. Бать, смотри.
101 or KH-101.
Ракета нахуй.
And
Ебать нахуй, ебать.
as you can see, very
Ебать. Ебать, осколки сейчас будут ебашить
air
нахуй.
defense does not seem to be operating at all in this region.
Еще пиздует нахуй. Бать, смотри.
Rather interesting. I hope you guys could hear me, and that video wasn't so loud. And then we come down here, and we have another video from the dam. Again, another the guy filming. Right.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah, bye. Also, this Eastern European rap.
Побачиш, ти пробачив ту російською чуму. Те, що війна, ніби не новина, але прокинутись пора, поки воїни добра роблять так, щоб дітвора грала і спокійно почувала у своїх горах.
Вон, летит.
Missile probably that we saw in the other video from a different angle. Boom. Right. So again, this facility is now completely offline. It will not be repaired until after the war, probably by the Russians, honestly. But yeah, it's some pretty significant damage. This video is just more cool than anything else. I wanted to show you guys. Reportedly, this is the sound of a Kinjal missile, this is the first time we would have heard it. This could also be an Iskander. It's kind of hard to tell, but claimed to be a Kinjal. So give this a listen. So it's super far away from this guy. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds kind of terrifying. Listen to it one more time. Just don't even really have time to understand what's happening before that thing hits you. Kind of crazy. All right. Let's go. Let's see. Was there anything else I wanted to show you? Well, since we're here, another NASM air defense system was struck by a what I believe is an X-39 missile. Here's a longer version of the video. I can show all you guys this stuff now because I'm already pretty much tapped. We can go through some footage. You can see the two systems. And we know it's a decoy obviously off. So, again, a significant air defense system of the Ukrainians lost to Russian missiles that should be able to be intercepted by this system. This was just north of Zaporozhye. So Ukrainian air defenses are being systematically destroyed. The results of this strike were actually quite interesting. Oh, and here's a picture from Odessa. This was today. This was a third separate strike series that occurred this morning with ballistic missiles. This morning, my time, evening Ukraine time, and this was claimed to be part of the port infrastructure, potentially lubricants or oil in the port. Again, no confirmation on what exactly was hit, but this is not just from the missile. Something is burning significantly down here. All right, so we got this news article today, and I think that this is probably the single most damning piece of information. Oh, I got a message here. Scott, big strikes last night throughout Ukraine and a terrorist attack today in do you expect something big to happen? I think something big is happening. I don't know necessarily if the terrorist attack has anything to do with it. I think that just is going to further harden hearts in Russia, and probably will work as a great enlistment tool. What happens after a country gets attacked by terrorism? Whatever you think about it, if you think it's a false flag, if you think it's CIA backed, if you think it's Ukrainian backed, if you think it's just some ISIS fellas that are causing some trouble, all it's going to do is boost Russian nationalism. That's all it's going to do. You put people under pressure, you make them feel like they're under attack for who they are and for being innocent in what they do, especially women and children. It doesn't suit. It doesn't work. Terrorism doesn't work. It has never worked. It's never going to work. The only thing it does is makes people angry. And if that's your goal, it could very well work. But I don't see how that works. I don't think they're necessarily related. I think that this is a whole different thing. A lot of people said that these strikes on the energy infrastructure were a response to the refinery strikes and to the incursions on the Belgorod-Kursk border and the shelling of Belgorod and Kursk. That could very well be true in part, but I think that this is actually a completely different approach that the Russians are now taking, and it doesn't really necessarily have as much to do with the incursions and the strikes on the refineries. I do think that it gave them a really good excuse to do whatever they wanted, though. Again, I have been saying this the entire time. The Ukrainians are not doing any favors by attacking civilians. They give Putin all of the leverage. They allow him to do whatever he wants, and he has a perfect excuse. I mean, I watched a lady walking her dog in Belgorod get hit by a multiple launch rocket system and instantly die. And then I posted a picture of her dog sitting next to her as she's dead, just waiting to come back. And it just didn't happen. And it's super sad, and it doesn't do anybody any good. And then you lose 10% of your power generation, pre-war power generation in Ukraine, in one area. Not that doesn't count what the strikes in Kharkov and the strikes in Odessa and everything else. So it's pretty significant. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to talk about this now. So this was probably the most significant event to happen today, in my personal opinion. Obviously the terrorist attack is horrible. I'm not even talking about that. That's not even what I'm considering. In terms of Ukraine news, the U.S. has urged Ukraine to halt strikes on Russian energy infrastructure. The United States has urged Ukraine to halt strikes on Russian energy infrastructure, warning that drone strikes risk provoking retaliation and driving up global oil prices. I don't really think they're worried about the escalation. I think that they're worried about the latter part of that statement. The Financial Times reported on Friday, citing people familiar with the matter. The attacks helped boost oil prices that have risen nearly 4% since March 12th, when Ukraine first started targeting Russia's energy infrastructure. A further rally in gasoline prices in the United States would weaken presidential Joe Biden's ratings and undermine his election prospects, or chances, is what they say. So, I mean, this is pretty clear cut, right? The Biden administration doesn't want rising oil prices going into the election. That's all that they care about. They want re-election, and Ukraine is getting in the way of that. And if Ukraine decides to continue attacking oil refineries, that's going to even further widen the rift between the U.S. and Ukraine currently. It's going to really make the funding issue become a significant what if for Ukraine. I don't get this at all. It's not affecting the Russian economy. Again, I will just talk about this. The Russians have a strategic petroleum reserve, right? They have oil storage facilities. You striking their refineries does not make their export of oil go down. Now, if this was some, immense campaign that was destroying every single refinery and really putting damage on the Russian ability to refine oil and gas, that maybe it could, you could make an argument. That's not what this is. These are small drones attacking these refineries. Yes, they start fires. Say a refinery is out for a month. that is not enough time to actually impact the amount of oil coming out of Russia. Not only that, but you're increasing the price. So the limited oil that that you think is coming out of Russia is actually more expensive now. So you're kind of covering the difference there for them. Really, who the Ukrainians are hurting with these actions is not the Russians. It's the West. It's the United States and Europe in particular. And it's very clear that that is exactly what's going on, because if you just look and read this, I mean, they're saying stop doing it. And they talk about retaliation. It's not about retaliation. The retaliation is fine. The West is fine with Russia retaliating against Ukraine. It gives them the excuse, just like the Russians currently have the excuse to do whatever they want. It's like a FAFO moment. You don't give your enemy an excuse. You do not give your opponent leverage in any tit for tat exchange, and that's what the Ukrainians do because they don't think things through. Thank you for your super sticker, Tim. I appreciate it. All right. Let's see. Do I have anything left over here that I wanted to talk about? The U.S. House passes $1.2 trillion for spending for the United States in total. This does not have anything to do with Ukraine or anything. The U.S. House passing this avoids United States government shutdown. Again, 1.2 trillion. Just throw that on the old deficit. So no big deal. We can deal with it. I thought that this was cool. An integrated ballistic calculator on the Russian 30 millimeter grenade launcher AGS-30 and the 82 millimeter mortar. Theoretically, this would help correct fire and increase accuracy of these weapons that are used as artillery. This is used basically as an automatic, a small automatic 40 millimeter mortar. Is how they use the AGS grenade launcher. That was cool. What Ukraine thinks of the loan plan. So again, I think I actually talked about this. Oh yeah, this is March 20th. Okay. Here you can see that in some regions of Ukraine, the internet completely dropped. Particularly Kharkov was hit really, really bad. You can see it's right here, Kupiansk, Kharkov. They lost all internet, all power. I still don't know if it's back up today. We can't tell right now. I haven't actually checked. It might be back up, but as far as I could tell, people were starting to actually leave Kharkov because of the power being out. This was an interesting statement coming out from the United States, from the Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary. So just give this a listen.
Ukraine right now is having to make strategic decisions about having to withdraw from certain areas in order to fortify their defensive lines. Those are really hard, tough decisions and decisions that they're having to make because we are not able to supply them with the capabilities, the systems that they need because we don't have that authorization from Congress. So the best way we can support Ukraine is to have Congress pass a supplemental so we can continue to draw down these packages. And you've heard the Secretary of Defense. He just convened the Ukraine Defense Contact Group earlier this week, and he said very forcefully that we're not going to let Ukraine fail, and we're not. But we do need Congress's help in order to get Ukraine what it needs.
Yeah. So no sending. There's no intention.
Okay. So basically, what she's saying there's a couple of omissions there that are important, I believe. The first one is that Ukraine is considering withdrawals to more strategically defensive areas, right? I believe that this is true. I believe this is what they should do. If they want to extend the fight as long as they can, they need to get out of certain areas because they're just wasting men. Belgorod would be a good start. I don't know what the hell's going on up there, but there are all of these areas where Ukraine could retreat. The Ukrainians are not talking about this publicly. So either the United States is trying to send a message like this is what you need to do if you want continued support. This could also just be the press secretary trying to get this thing passed. You always got to think about that too. She might just be saying this stuff just to get it passed, right? In general, though, I think that this is the current mood. That the West believes that Ukraine should retreat from certain areas. while Ukraine doesn't believe that they should retreat because retreat would be basically an omission of defeat. Is there anything else here? Oh, yeah, this was from the day 100% interceptions. So this was the day before the current strikes I just talked about. Ukraine claimed to have intercepted 100% of the missiles that were targeted towards Kiev, at least. So here's from that day. A pretty massive explosion you can hear in the background. Doesn't necessarily mean anything got hit. That kind of means something got hit, though. So again, I'll fast forward so you guys can see it's right here. Something pretty sizable hit right there. So that's one. And then whatever you guys want to make of this.
О,
This is again in Kiev.
волна ударная.
Well, no. Oh. More hits. Another big hit. So that doesn't mean those are all necessarily confirmed strike, but again, significant damage. All right, the last thing I wanted to talk about was this was said by go to the Fab Factory, the good old Fab Factory. The big announcement from this visit, usually when Shoigu goes and does these inspections of military industrial complex facilities, there's usually some big announcement coming on the back of them. They have something planned. The big one here is that Fab 3000, if you guys know, the Fabs come in different sizes. Down. The Fabs come in different sizes. 250 is the smallest Fab, especially the ones that have the guidance kits on them that are regularly used. That's a 250 kilogram bomb. 500s are very common. 1500s are less common. I believe those are 1500s that you're seeing here. And then you have the 3000, which is now being mass produced at this factory and is being equipped with a glide kit. So we should see a 3,000 kg bomb falling on Ukraine here soon. It's definitely going to do significant damage to fortifications, large structures and buildings. These are big bombs. When it comes to effectiveness, I would say I would prefer 4 Fab 500s that are extremely accurate over 1 Fab 1500, just because of the the AOE effect that these bombs have. If you have 4 of them placed evenly, it does much more damage than a single 1500 does. So I guess that makes sense because it's 2,000 kg of explosives, but distancing is important. All right. Thank you for your super thanks. I appreciate it. And then if you guys just wanted some size comparisons of these bombs, I can show that to you as well. Go right here. And here you can see this is the 500. Here is the 1500, the 3000, the 5000, and then the 9000. I believe the 3000 can be carried. Wait, the 500, the 1500. Yeah, the 3000 can be carried by an Su-34 if it's mounted directly underneath. Primarily, I believe the Tu-22 backfires are the ones that use this weapon, but I do not believe you will see Russian strategic aviation dropping bombs over Ukraine. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to use those aircraft. All right. I believe that's pretty much it. If you guys wanted to talk about the stuff going on, go ahead and get some questions in. Go ahead, questions. I'll start talking. Again, the terrorist stuff, I have a hard time just because it's just innocent people dying. Innocent people dying in Ukraine, innocent people dying in Russia, innocent people dying anywhere, Gaza, anywhere. I have a real difficult time dealing with that just because there's no, when you're a soldier, you put yourself in the line of fire. It's a part of the reality of the job that you might die, right? It's a reality of war. Unfortunately, another reality of war is that wars are usually fought where civilians live, and civilians get caught in that crossfire. Whether it's an ideological war, like is what we could be seeing in Russia, or a regular war like we're seeing in Ukraine, civilians are always going to get caught, and it's just super unfortunate. I don't really know what else to say. I can't talk much on what's happening until more information comes out. So I'm really, really, really sad, guys. I'm really sorry and sad. Major Russian offensive this summer. I believe so. I believe in May or June, you will see a significant increase in Russian pressure. I don't know what exactly an offensive will look like. I don't know if it's going to be some large arrow. You start to target energy infrastructure. The reason why you're targeting energy infrastructure is not so people can't charge their phones. That's not what they're doing. They target energy infrastructure because it is very, very, very difficult to run command and control and logistics when you're also dealing with power outages and delays. Rail traffic is all, a majority of it is electronic. So, there's not a lot of diesel locomotives in Ukraine. That was one of the things at the beginning of the conflict was, we were talking about how many diesel locomotives Ukraine had for the energy infrastructure strikes. This strike right here, like I said, very significant, could be the precursor to a Russian offensive. Again, excuse me, we saw a number of strikes in the Kharkov region. I believe that Kharkov, Sumy, this entire region is going to get pushed out eventually. So this is always a possibility. The Russians have made it very clear that that's what they're going to do. I believe that this whole side of the river will eventually fall to the Russians. And then once that happens, Odessa will be the next goal. And I don't really necessarily think that this is going to be a fight. Once this collapses, there is nothing back here to defend. Large Russian maneuver operations can begin. The air defense is incredibly weak. Once those lines break, once chaos ensues, I also believe you will probably see something akin to the Hosmel landing at the beginning of the conflict, another large helicopter landing, not in Kiev, but somewhere, perhaps to create a bridgehead across the Dnieper. I don't know, but the Russians were very, very seriously talking about creating the conditions to do another helicopter landing like that. Will Russia officially declare war on Ukraine? Listen, if this attack in Moscow has anything to do with Ukraine, which I am highly suspicious of, the timing is just perfect. Nuland said she had some surprises in store for Russia. Don't really know what that meant. Could have just been the Belgorod operation. I don't know. But Ukraine has a history of close connections with individuals in the Caucasus. Georgians, any sort of terrorist cell can be easily persuaded to go and commit some horrific tragedy in the name of something else. I'm not making that claim at all, guys. I don't know. I'm not saying that's what's happening. If Ukraine is somehow connected, whether Russia makes it a false flag or if Ukraine was actually connected, I don't really care. Doesn't really matter to the outcome of the situation. Yes, I believe war will be declared on Ukraine. That could be coming in the coming hours, for all we know. The U.S. warned about the attack happening, so that makes me very, very suspicious. Also, I forgot. I'm so glad you asked that question because I meant to actually talk about this. I thought I had them saved, but I did not see them in my. Oh yeah, here they are. Okay, so I can just read this to you guys. Peskov basically came out and said this. Peskov is Putin's press secretary. So this is a very, very official statement by a very official individual. This is not going to be said loosey-goosey or half-assed. Quote, Russia is now in a state of war. Everyone should understand this. Russia will continue to act so that the Ukrainian military potential cannot threaten the security of its citizens and territory, Peskov. So that, he's not calling it an SMO anymore. He's calling it a war. I think that basically everybody can assume what he's talking about and the significance of what he said. Let me see if I can find his other quote because I thought I saved it. If not, I'll just go into my profile and look for it. Yeah, I must not have saved it. All right. Oops. Medvedev also came out and said today, this is another quote, just so you guys know, Medvedev is the former president of Russia. Currently, he's something. Deputy something. Basically still right-hand man of Putin, came out and said that this is a direct quote from him. Obviously, he's the more enthusiastic, you could say, of the Russian leadership. Russia will kill Ukrainian leaders if they are linked to the attack on Moscow. That is a direct quote from him. So the things are very, very serious right now. We'll see how events transpire over the next 24 hours. It should be interesting. Will NATO join? No. They've very clearly said that they are not going to join. They want no part of this war. It does not benefit them at all. No, NATO will not enter this war. I very, very wholeheartedly believe that they won't, especially after the recent post by, I'll show you guys that too in just a second. I'm just going to go look for that final quote by Peskov that I wanted to talk about. Let's see. Tweeted a lot, guys. Tweeted a lot today. A lot going on. A lot to talk about. All right. So this is Peskov again. Russia cannot allow the existence on its borders of a state that has a documented intention to use any methods to take Crimea away from it, not to mention the territory of new regions. So he's talking about obviously the Belgorod-Kursk incursions, the attempts to recapture Crimea, and attempts to recapture the newly annexed regions. Again, here's another quote. I'm sorry you guys can't see this. I could just share my thing, but it's not that big of a deal. Peskov again. Yes, it started out as a special military operation, but when the collective West became a participant in this on the side of Ukraine, it became a war for us. So again, talking about NATO involvement. Again, I believe that this is all posturing. You got to look at these statements not as direct claims, not as like predictions or anything. The way you have to look at this is it's a back and forth. It's a in geopolitics and foreign policy, it's a word game, right? That's what you're always playing. It's like, you know how people get really upset about English because it's like, the English language, it can be manipulated so drastically just by the changing of a vowel or a single word, or the way you say something can completely change the meaning of it. That's what these statements are. This is a warning to the West. That's what this is. Anytime an official government, when a government official makes a statement like this, it's either for foreign consumption or domestic consumption. There is no other means, right? This is not for domestic consumption. I mean, it could be technically. I'm sure it plays well in Russia, but this is directed towards NATO, saying we consider you an active participant in the Ukraine conflict because of how much you have supported Ukraine. It is now a war for us. You should heed that warning because there are consequences for going to war with Russia, right? That's what they're talking about. So I would just be very careful with taking these quotes as literal, policy, more as communication on a higher level between Moscow and Ukraine, or Moscow and Washington. What was the other thing I was going to show you? Hold on, I have to go way back in my timeline here. I was going to show you guys something. Oh, goodness gracious. What was I going to show you? I can't remember, guys. I'm sorry. I had something to show you, but I can't remember. All right. If you guys have more questions, go ahead and get them in. I'll probably miss some questions. I'm sorry, guys. I go back and forth. I get on rants. My bet is almost nothing will change in that regard except tightening security around the country. Yeah, with the terrorist attack, who knows? It'll be interesting if they try to leverage it into something, if the Russians try to leverage it. It's a very big deal. I mean, it's a lot of people. It's a massive terrorist attack. If Ukraine is involved, I fully expect them to use it. But, it's hard to tell. There's so much going on in these events, guys. There's so many different possibilities of things unraveling. I don't think it's a false flag by any means. I don't think so. Russia is winning. Why would you make your citizens feel threatened by the situation? I don't believe they would. So that's my personal opinion on it. There's no real need to rally support right now, as there is the most support for Russia in Russia. Putin is coming off a huge election win. He doesn't need to galvanize. He doesn't need to consolidate. Everything's been consolidated. It really makes no sense. So it's, in my personal opinion, it's either Western backed or just a terror group doing terror group things. Scott, are you near anything that might draw a nuclear bomb? Yeah, I'm pretty sure every American is near something that would draw a nuclear bomb. I mean, in most states, there's a military base. In most states, there's something. So for sure. But I got my bug out bag. I got my whole plan ready to go. I know what I'm doing. I live in a good part of the city I'm in. I'm on the outside of it, so I'm pretty far away, and I'll be able to get out. I already answered this. This guy's, will NATO come? I said no. NATO will not join. Got to grow the channel so Kalibrated can make the coveted Ukrainian pro-Ukrainian pro-Russian misinformation list. I want to get on that kill list, boy. Let's get that riled up. I'm ready. What do I got to do to get on that kill list? I got to piss somebody important off. That's what it's got to be. I deal with too many Westerners that don't have any say in anything. I got to start pissing off real Ukrainians to get on that list. Yeah. I want to be in that whole web where it's like Russian propaganda outlets, the Duran, Brian, me, and then who else? History Legends or something. So like some stupid shit like that. The Great Misinformation Campaign. So stupid, man. Yeah, Jackson is on that list. Everybody's on that list. Here we go. Do you believe that Trump will change much in U.S. foreign policy? Personally, no. No president's going to change much in U.S. foreign policy. No president. The only way that's going to happen is some titanic shift in the power dynamics behind the scenes. The president does not make these choices. As you can see, the president of the United States right now would very, very, very much like foreign policy to be, we're going to send every little last thing we have to Ukraine to make sure this fight goes as long as possible. And what are you seeing happening? Right? It's getting stopped. It's getting stopped by people that aren't the president. It's the House, the Senate. They all have a much bigger say than what the president does, than what the president has to say. So, president doesn't change much. It's a fake. It's the illusion of democracy, people. If you want to know what U.S. elections are, it's, hey, look, we're going to give you 8 options on this side and 8 options on this side to choose from. Except, well, usually it's one option from one side, the incumbent, going for re-election, and then 8 guys on the other side who we handpick, who are all they all backed by lobbies. That's the shitty part is you don't really get to choose anybody. There are no significantly individual people. Like, Trump made that claim that he was not backed by anybody, but he's still, you're a US president. If you don't listen to the lobbies, you're going to get assassinated basically, or ousted, or have the most complicated and complex US presidency like Trump did, where he was stonewalled around every corner about everything. If we want to give $5 billion to Ukraine, it's like nothing. It's like, take it, shut up and take it, shut up and take the money. Trump requested $5 billion for a border wall, and that was the end of the world. So I mean, it's ridiculousness. All right. No, the U.S. presidential elections do not change anything. The only thing that they change is the fact that the people who are in power want to stay in power and maintain that power. So they will do anything to prevent other people from getting in power, which could mean, bogging down the Ukraine spending, the funding and stuff like that. But that's the only real change. After the elections, everything's going to go back to normal. Any update on Israel running short of artillery shells? I talked about this. ABC, an Israel military official, was talking to ABC about how they have an acute shortage of 155 millimeter artillery shells as they prepare for their intervention into Rafah, which I do believe is going to go ahead. The U.S. has been very reluctant to okay that operation because they know what's going to happen. It's going to be just a genocide. There's no way around it. You have 1 point some million people in that part of the city that have nowhere to go. They're in refugee camps. It's going to be a genocide. That's plain and simple. If you displace those people, even if there's not a single civilian casualty, that's a genocide still. And if you go in and you take over and you destroy all the buildings and you destroy people's homes like that, that is a genocide with the sole intent of destroying people's homes. When you're talking about like Mariupol, like if it was a mutual combat situation, I guess you could call it a mutual combat situation because Hamas is in there and they do use civilian buildings. So I'm not saying that, but there is a point where collateral damage outweighs the military objective. Like you can't assassinate one person and kill 200 innocent people. Like that's a war crime, right? There's no justification for that. And I believe that's what you're going to see. So there is a acute artillery shell shortage, yes, in the IDF as well as in Ukraine. There is an acute artillery shell shortage around the world. I'm pretty sure Czechoslovakia found 200,000 artillery shells to send to Ukraine, and those came from a Russian ally. So probably purchased through a third party, some foreign shells that are going to be sent to Ukraine. That's just the way it works. They're digging, they're scrounging everywhere, looking for shells. Chances of a Russia-Ukraine, Russia-NATO clash in Ukraine, the chance is always there. I would say very low. I think everybody's made it very, very clear in NATO that they are not interested in that. Outside of Macron, who is a politician, but even his Minister of Defense said that there is no chance that French troops set foot on Ukrainian soil. It's just bluffing and posturing because they're dealing with a pretty. Was it the Czech? What is it? Did I say Czechoslovakia? Is that wrong? Shit. I'm sorry, guys. My brain's fried. Czech. Who was it? It was the Czechs, right? Am I wrong? Sorry, that's probably. Yeah, Czech Republic. Czech. Sorry, I just said Czechoslovakia. Sorry, guys. American education. There you go. There was a place at one time called Czechoslovakia in Europe, right? And then, it got changed. Sorry, guys. Czechoslovakia, right next to Yugoslavia, right next to Ukrainian SSR, right? My bad, boys. My bad. Sorry, brain's fried. I've been up since 2 a.m. covering the strikes and everything, so I've had a long day. It is currently 3:02, so I've been up for 12 hours straight, running on about 4 hours of sleep. My brain is roasted. Czech Republic or Slovakia, two different countries now. Yeah, no, I'm just going to go ahead and say Czechoslovakia. Reunite. I am a nationalist. I am a what would you call it? I don't know. I want the good old days back. All right. Is a frozen conflict, even if or after Russia takes more oblasts, the most likely outcome? I don't think so at this point. I think that the destruction of the Ukrainian state is what is going to transpire. Could there be a frozen conflict? Yes. I think that Ukraine will cease to exist at the end of this. At this point, I think that the Russians have very clearly stated what they are going to do, and I believe that they're going to go through with that. And remember all those red lines that Ukraine made fun of, and the West made fun of, and crossed deliberately. all of those red lines are about to be enforced. That's what you're going to see. And everybody's going to whine and everybody's going to cry and bitch and complain. And, Russia this, Russia empire, Russia terrorist, propaganda. But they warned for 2 years. They talked about negotiations for 2 years. Nobody was interested. The West deliberately sank negotiations on multiple occasions. And I believe now it's done. I think even last year, October-ish, before Avdiivka and stuff, there were still some sort of negotiations and the US tanked them. So I think that, even though there's been this talk of no negotiation, this, that, and the other, I still believe that they're trying to figure something out. But now I think it's all done. I do not think you're going to see any negotiated settlement with Kiev. That's done. However long it takes, they're going to finish it. I believe that's how we're going to see it. So I don't think that at this point, I don't believe that there will be a rump state Ukraine. I know that's what a lot of people say. I don't think that that's going to happen. However much of it goes to whichever countries, I legitimately think the Medvedev crazy thing that he presented is a legitimate outcome for how Russia sees the end of this Ukraine conflict. They are not negotiating with the West on it. They are not negotiating with Ukraine on it. That time has passed. They are going to finish this their way. On the back of the terrorist attack in Russia, I mean, you could see the ball start rolling aggressively, depending on what comes out of that. The U.S. adds $1 trillion to its debt every 126 days. How long before this starts affecting its foreign policy and spending? Good question, dude. You might want to contact some of my representatives about this. I don't know. I thought it would have started affecting foreign policy about $20 trillion ago, but I guess not. So, hey, whatever. Keep piling it on. Just add it up. I'm sure that debt is never going to be called. Preaching unity, of course. Czechoslovakia, the nation state that must be rebuilt. Clip it. If you think that building 7 fell on its own footprint on 9/11 because a plane hit another building, I've got a vaccine. Yeah, I mean, listen, have you ever seen the World Trade Center? I don't know about Building 7. I haven't done enough research on it. In my personal opinion, one of those planes slamming into the two very, very limited support structure, like the stairwells in the building. If you look, just Google the World Trade Center see-through. Like basically, there's images of it where you can see the skeleton of the building when the sun is directly behind it. And I mean, if a plane flew into that thing full bore, guys, I can see some structural the structure being compromised pretty significantly. I'm not a big conspiracy guy. I think that there are things that are not conspiracies that people probably do think are conspiracies, but the whole 9/11 thing, I believe that Bush may have had some sort of inclination that something was going to happen. I don't think that it was as big as what they thought it was going to be. I also don't think they thought it was going to be as successful as it was, but it was a really good casus belli for a series of wars in the Middle East that were pre-thought out much ahead of time. So I definitely see where the suspicion comes from. I'm just an American beast of burden for the Ukrainians. I don't even know what that means, bro. Let's see. Anybody got any questions? Go ahead and get questions in. Questions. Please not 9/11 questions. Oh, we've had 10,000 people already view this stream. Awesome, guys. That's awesome. I love it. Questions. Do you believe that the Ukrainians might attempt an attack on Zaporozhye nuclear facilities? They might, but I don't think it will result in anything. We already saw the best option that they had for trying to take the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, and it failed miserably. So I don't believe you're going to see another one of those. It's just not going to pan out if they do. So Did you hear about the 11 Ukrainian pilots who just got trained for the F-16 terminated outside of Lvov earlier this week? No, I did not hear about that. Again, I'd be very cautious with claims like that. That is a significant claim. To think all 11 Ukrainian pilots of the F-16 program are all in the same place, because I believe that there are only 10, right? Actually, 10 F-16 pilots that were trained that just completed their training in Britain. I doubt that they were killed, guys. I'm sure I'm sure that they are targets, but I would be very careful about this. This is where you start to get into like the propaganda side of things, where you need to be very careful about the claims you're accepting as reality. Why is the SMO over now? Because Peskov, the press secretary of Russia, openly called this a war when the whole time they've been very, very deliberate in calling it an SMO. They talk about how it's a war now because the West is so involved. And with the recent incursions into Belgorod and everything, they're just starting to talk like that. So all right. Sorry, muted myself. Idiot, dummy. Yeah, I know. My mic has a like a little cord right under. I'll show you guys. Here we go. See that mic? It's got that little thing, and sometimes this thing gets like bent a little bit too much, and then it just disconnects. So I have to reconnect it. Sorry, boys. My bad. Let's see. What question is this? Hi, Scott. Do you know a good resource for the first Donbass war? Are you talking about 2014 to 2022? Or like 2014 to 2015? Is that what you're talking about? I'm sure people in chat can definitely help you out with that, man. Somebody give him some good resources for that. I do have some. You can DM me and I'll DM you some stuff. But yeah, go ahead and somebody help him out there. I've got a great chat that can provide you with a good number of resources on that. Do you expect some real change of tactics in this war? Yes, like we saw with this recent strike targeting energy infrastructure, not at the beginning of winter. That's not their job. These strikes were logistics interruption, in my personal opinion. I do believe you're going to see a lot more aggressive strikes like this. I believe Odessa was kind of the start of that with the double tap. I believe you're going to see a lot more of that because it's a very effective way of making sure that a lot of military die in your strikes. Unfortunately, there is collateral damage that comes along with that. But, the Americans have been using those strikes. They perfected it. They're the ones who basically designed that with drone warfare. So Obama was very, very criticized for using double tap strikes frequently. And I believe that that's what you're going to begin to see the Russians start to use. All right. Oh, why you gotta be like that, bro? You've got a lot of resources, but you won't share. This isn't Civilization, bro, or Age of Empires. You can share your resources, dog. It's okay. Questions. Get some questions in, and then we'll wrap it up here. I appreciate everybody who donated today. If you guys wouldn't mind, again, going and liking this and just try to get those likes up. I don't know. What are my average likes? I don't even look. I'm so like, I do all of this stuff, and then I don't rewatch it. I know what I think, so I don't go back over it. But I'm curious as to, so my last one got 673 likes. Guys, can we try to get 1,000 likes on this? If we could get 1,000 likes on this video, that would be awesome. I'm going to start doing that. Should I do the cringy YouTuber thing? Come on, guys. Can we get 1,000 likes on this? Let's get that popping. All right. No more questions. We good? All right, guys. I think I am going to end the stream right there. Get out of here. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you, guys. Check back in probably tomorrow night. I'll do another live stream. I'm busy this weekend, so if it doesn't happen Saturday, it will definitely happen Sunday. If it happens Saturday, it might not happen Sunday. We'll see. I got a lot going on, but I'll definitely get on here and make sure you guys get your news. I appreciate you so much. Take care, be safe, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye, guys.